Welcome back once again. This is section 2 of our unit 5. So we've been looking at the capital structure theories. So that's the main objective for today. So at the end of this session, you should be able to identify and explain the meaning of capital structure theories, and also explain the mechanism through which some of the theories explain the relationship between capital structure and the value of the firm. Alright, so let's start with our theories. So we have the net income approach. According to the net income approach, a firm may increase the total value of a firm by lowering its cost of capital. So when the cost of capital is lowest and the value of the firm is greatest, we call it the optimum capital structure. I hope you understand this one because we did it in our previous section. Right. So at the optimal capital structure, a firm's market price per share is maximized. So the same is possible continuously by lowering its cost of capital by the use of the debt capital. Right, so that is what the net income approach is saying. Let's also look at the net income or the net operating income approach. So the first one is net income approach. So this one is net operating income approach. So this theory was advocated by David Daran and is based on the following assumptions. It says that the overall capitalization rate of the firm, which stands for KW, that is the capital or the cost of capital, is constant for all degrees of leverages. That is the first assumption. The second assumption is that the net operating income is capitalized at an overall capitalization rate to have the total market value of the firm. Our third assumption is that the market value of the debt is then subtracted from the total market value to get the market value of equity. Right, so these are three main assumptions, and the fourth assumption is that as the cost of debt is constant, the cost of equity will be the earning before interest and tax minus the 1 over the x. Alright, so that is our fourth assumption. So under the net operating income approach, the most significant assumption is that the cost of capital is constant irrespective of the degree of leverage. So that is the key point under the net operating income approach. So segregating between the debt and equity is not important here, and the market capitalizes the value of the firm as a whole. Right, so as a whole, they don't segregate it into maybe equity component and maybe debt component. So therefore, an increase in the use of apparently cheaper debt funds is offset exactly by the corresponding increase in the equity capitalization rate. Right, so let's also look at the traditional theory approach. So this theory or this approach explains that up to a certain point, the debt to equity mix will cause the market value of the firm to rise and the cost of capital to decline. But after attaining the optimum level, any additional debt will cause to decrease the market value and also to increase the cost of capital. Right, so it has its ceiling point. The moment any additional debt is introduced, it will rather cause the market value to decrease and also the cost of capital to start increasing. So it may be called an intermediate approach between the net operating approach and the net income approach. And because of that, we call it the intermediate approach. Right, so the basic proposition of the traditional theory approach include the following. So these are the basic propositions that support the traditional approach. So one, the cost of capital remains constant more or less up to a certain level and thereafter rises. Two, the cost of equity capital remains constant more or less and gradually up to a certain level and thereafter it increases rapidly. We have our third proposition. The average cost of capital decreases up to a certain level. It remains unchanged more or less and thereafter rises after attaining a certain level. So these are the three major propositions that are in support of the traditional theory approach. We also have the M&M, that is the Modigliani-Miller approach. So the research work by M&M, that is the Modigliani and Miller, 1958, forms the foundation for the modern day research on the capital structure. So the basic M&M theory proposition state that under certain markets, in the absence of taxes, bankruptcy costs, and asymmetric information, and in an efficient market, the value of a firm is unaffected by how the firm is financed. So that is the proposition 1 of the M&M theory. That is the overall cost of capital and the firm's value are independent of the firm's capital structure. So these are some of the other propositions of the Modigliani and Miller theory. So first of all, the cost of capital and the total market value of the firm is independent of its cost of its capital structure. That is the one we just said. So second is increase in the cost of capital is offset exactly by the use of cheaper debt. Alright, so and the third one is the cutoff point for investment is always the capitalization rate, which is completely independent and unaffected by the securities that are invested. We also have some few assumptions here. So one is the existence of perfect capital market. Alright, so they assume that there is a perfect capital market. Perfect capital market means that there is no transaction cost, flotation costs are neglected, and there is information available without any cost. Alright, so let's look at the interpretation of this hypothesis that is stated by the M&M. So it reveals that if more debt is included in the capital structure of a firm, the same will not increase its value as the benefit of cheaper debt, because they are exactly set off by the corresponding increase in the cost of equity. Although debt capital is less expensive than the equity capital. So this is the interpretation of the Modigliani and Miller, in short M&M hypothesis. We also have the life cycle theory. So Flack 1999 stated in a model, it stated that in a model of optimal financing contracting, so that the initial and subsequent financing decision of the same firm will lead to different security choices. So consistent with empirical evidence, the Flock theory implies a life cycle pattern of financing. So a life cycle pattern of financing. So firms will issue outside equity first, short-term or convertible debt first, and then use their retained earnings, and they will issue long-term debt or outside equity to satisfy any subsequent financing needs. Okay, so that is the view of the life cycle theory from Flock 1999. So there are other theories that you may have to look at. We have the static trade-off theory, the agency cost hypothesis theory, the pecking order, that is the information asymmetry theory. Right, so kindly read on these other theories that are available. Right, so in this session we have discussed some of the theories as we just said, and the explanation of the relationship that exists between the capital structure and the firm's performance, as well as some of the theories that explain the nature of the capital structure of the firm. Alright, thank you, and I will see you in the next session. Bye bye.